What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Slate here. It is a Thursday sports edition, and what better way to kick things off? No, not with Masters talk. That's coming up with Reed T. Fowler. Opening day in Major League Baseball. That's right. Finally, the 3-month lockout is in the past. The shortened spring training and all that nonsense is in the past. We are into the thick of it now. Opening day, baseball's arrived. Steve Buchanan rejoining us, as he will multiple times per week, right here on the Slate, the DraftKings channels, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you're finding us. I'm Adam Kaufman. Bukes, I mean, is this Christmas morning? Is this a holiday in your household? What do we got?
I mean, I'm just ecstatic to still be employed, because if there was no baseball, what am I going to do? Go back to my 90-day fiance analysis? Like, I could have done that, but I'd be vastly overpaid for that. But it's a glorious day here. A little surreal, because quite frankly, about a month or so ago, we didn't even know if we were going to be here. And now it's here. Everything's back in the mix. And, here on the, one of my favorite shows, whatever it's called.
Yeah, it is nice too, because to your point, like just hearing a lot of the big leaguers talk in the off season and during the lockout. I mean, even I'll say it was a limited group that thought, man, like the whole season's going to be wiped out. We're not even going to be playing in 2022. But you certainly had a lot of people, kind of a vocal minority, if you will, saying, I don't think we're going to be playing before June. Like, this is going to take some time, obviously. So the fact that we do have a full 162, this is great.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, I talked to people in the league, that I've met along the way, and they were saying the same thing. Like, they were like, I would not be surprised if we don't even see one pitch until June. And then literally like that, it was back. And that's just how quickly it came together. So I'm glad that everybody who said we're not going to see a pitch in June was wrong. And here we are in April 7th, getting it going.
And a few games underway, obviously. And, we'll show you what's going on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Still plenty of games later on that you can place bets on, and various props or totals, lines, whatever it is that you want to get into. It's all available to you. We talk about the DraftKings Sportsbook all the time. Obviously, it's a good chunk of the reason that we are here right now. But at the moment, you get some close games. Cubs on top of the Brewers. That's late in the 8th. The newly branded, I guess I'll put it that way, the Cleveland Guardians are in action with a 1-0 lead on the Royals. The Pirates, the Cardinals, early on for them, and the Cards on top. Back, by the way, with Albert Pujols on the roster again, which just feels right. What are the big sort of, we're just underway, so it's more time for analysis than reflection, but the big opening day takeaways, what are some of the things that either you've already seen that you've liked, or things that obviously you're watching for later on?
Yeah, just going to that first game, Brewers and Cubs, we might see a pretty big upset here with the Cubs going up against Corbin Burns. The Brewers were, I think they ended up closing as -160 favorites, and Corbin Burns got a little roughed up by an offense that shouldn't be doing any roughing up at all. I dare you to go through that Cubs lineup and realistically say, oh, I've heard of this player before. If you can do that more than 3 or 4 times, then you must be a hardcore baseball fan. But to the casuals, that lineup is not going to do a lot of damage. But they did it against, somebody who was in the running for a Cy Young at the end of the year. Obviously, first game of the year, shortened spring training. We might see some of these weird games come out of it, but fairly quick hook on Corbin Burns. We might see that a lot too for the first few weeks with the shortened spring training. You're not going to really see guys going, 7+ innings in the early goings here, because they didn't get a proper amount of stretching out and all that during spring training, because that was shortened. But good problem to have, because we do have actual baseball going on.
I was going to ask you about that. If you're sort of thinking about this from a betting perspective, more so than DFS, I would say, and you're, just looking at these first couple weeks of the season, it goes obviously well beyond today. How much do you think the shortened spring training, because this thing was trimmed down by a solid, 15 or so games, for each of these teams. So basically cut in half from what it normally is. They played in the vicinity of 20, most of these teams. What kind of impact does this have on the start of the regular season? Is this, really advantageous for the hitters, not so much for the pitchers?
Yeah, I think so too, because, obviously baseball is so long. It's an absolute grind. It takes up basically half of the year. And, even an extra 2 weeks, if they had that, work out some kinks, work on some things. That's going to, bleed into the regular season. Now that happens every year. Let's not get that conflicted there. They have these like kinks and stuff that they're working out on, but the shortened amount of time is certainly going to make a difference too as well. And even for pitchers, like I mentioned, I would not be shocked if you don't really see any of these starting pitchers going over 6 or 7 innings, especially this early and the amount of time that they didn't have to get ready. So that's something to consider as well when you're taking, props on strikeouts or props on innings pitched or anything like that. That's something to think about through the early few weeks here in April.
So building on that, do you target anything specific? For instance, if you believe that, hey, this is better for the bats than it is for the arms, so you're targeting a lot of overs in terms of lines going into games?
It's certainly going to be matchup based. I mean, there is definitely not a one-all catch-all strategy to go into this, but for example, for tonight, Max Fried is going up against the Reds. His strikeout total has dropped to 4.5. You're paying a lot of juice for the over. It's at minus 160, I believe, off the top of my head. That's something you might consider. I liked the over earlier in the day, but obviously people are worried about if he's going to be out of this game early. Now, it's kind of a weird way to put that because Max Fried is not normally somebody that is a big strikeout pitcher. He struck out less than a batter in an inning last year. I think he ended up with a K9 of 8.7. And this is a Reds team that's going to strike out a lot. So I still like the over on this one, but you have to take into consideration. What if he's only going maybe 5 innings in this game because he wasn't stretched out past that during spring training? All things to consider, but it's really going to be matchup based through the first few weeks of the season.
That minus 160, it's moved to minus 170, just something to keep an eye on. Obviously, we're showing you what's going on the DraftKings Sportsbook. What about a guy like Shohei Ohtani? Like, he's always been obviously a really delicate situation to begin with. How often is he going to be starting? What's his role going to be in the lineup? Is he going to have a 30-30 year? He was the MVP last year, one of the most obviously electric, exciting players, arguably in baseball history, never mind just right now, but certainly, insanely talented. What should we expect from him this year on the mound?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, he took a massive step forward last year and what we saw from him on the mound. He's got to trim down those walks a little bit there as well. But for somebody that does everything that he does, they can go out there, strike out 10 guys, and then the next day go 3 for 4 on at home plate. It's absolutely amazing. So I think this is going to be another year where he takes another step ahead. That division has definitely taken a step back this year as well. Aside from the Mariners, they took 5 steps forward. Don't forget that. But, the Oakland Athletics, absolute fire sale. They're not going to be a team you have to worry about. The Angels didn't really do much. I mean, doesn't have to worry about the Angels, but just talking about this division overall, the Angels didn't really do much. The Astros lost one of their biggest hitters in Carlos Correa. That's going to be a hit to them. And then you have, of course, the Texas Rangers, who are going to score 10 runs, but also give up 14 because they have absolutely no pitching. But that division is definitely not as strong as we've seen before, aside from the Mariners. So it's going to be interesting. And I think this is a good opportunity for him to kind of take advantage of that.
Ohtani is on the mound tonight. Part of the reason that I brought him up before, but just for anyone that isn't aware of that and taking on that Astros team that has lost Carlos Correa, you brought up the Mariners, obviously, and I know you were big on them last year. I know you're still big on them, so I'm sort of answering the question as I ask it. But who for you, like we heard so much last year, but the Mariners this and Mariners that, and obviously Robbie Ray and the 80-1 Cy Young, which obviously came true, was a huge hit for you, and it was something you were trumpeting all season long. 2022 though, who's this year's Mariners? Maybe it's still Seattle. Who's this year's Robbie Ray? What are the things that you're watching for here?
Yeah, this year's Mariners is still the Mariners. Okay, that is not ever going to change. The DraftKings Sportsbook. Okay, I do not care if I am here representing DraftKings. The 83.5 win total that they have out there for the Mariners is so damn disrespectful. And I will happily hit the over on that. And all of my followers and following and audience will be happy to take the over on that because you're going to get smashed. And you know what? If you lose a ton of money on this, I don't care. I have been touting this team forever. If you don't want to listen to your own person, your own guy, then that's your fault. So you're telling me that a team that won 90 games last year, all the improvements they did in the offseason, they're going to lose more than they did last year? Out of your minds. DraftKings Sportsbook. I don't know what's going on. Okay? I don't care. We're about to take your money, and we're going to be happy to do it. Big smile when we cash those. Yeah. I don't care.
I mean, you warned them. You warned them.
I warned them. I gave them full, I gave them a chance to rectify it. They didn't. Sorry. We're coming for that cash, baby.
We'll get back to the Robbie Ray because I do want the other half of that question. But just while we're talking about teams like Seattle and division winners, and obviously Seattle is, at the moment on the DraftKings Sportsbook, just to, further add or fuel the fire of the disrespect, third in the division, the AL West behind the Astros and the Angels. The Angels, I know they have Ohtani, I know they have Trout, but man, this is a team that can never win. What I'm going to ask you, and ignore Seattle because Seattle would be your answer to this question. So ignore Seattle for the moment.
Fine.
The odds-on favorites to win the divisions right now, just listing them off in no particular order. The Brewers, the White Sox, the Braves, again, the Astros, the Dodgers, the Blue Jays. Okay. Those are right now the division winners, some of them anyway. I don't think we're completely on the board right now, but who do you think is ripe to be upset? Who do you think is not, other than Seattle, getting the proper respect?
Yeah. I mean, that would be the first one there. When it comes to the rest of the divisions, like, it really is set extremely well, because I would have said, if you asked me a week ago, I would have said the Mets over the Braves might be the upset, but the Mets can't even get on the field before they start crumbling in front of our eyes. Once again, they made all of these moves and we were like, I almost swore. We look at all the moves that they made. We're like,
nobody's watching. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Wow. They, this team might really compete. All the moves that they made. And then right off the jump, they haven't even taken the field. They haven't even thrown a pitch yet. Jacob deGrom, hurt. Max Scherzer, hurt. The two top guys in that rotation already going down. Now, they did add some depth. They traded for Chris Bassett, which really kind of started the Oakland Athletics fire sale. So there is that. But I mean, when you take away deGrom and Scherzer, two legitimate guys who could win the National League Cy Young, and you put them out for an undisclosed amount of time, you can't afford to lose time in that division, because the Phillies improved, the Mets improved, the Braves improved. There's so much improvement. Even the Marlins are going to make some noise this year, I think, by far. So you can't lose ground in that division. And they're already starting off down their top two guys, which is incredible. So that would have been my answer. But you can't say that anymore. I think it's still for the Braves to take. And then the AL East, of course, it's going to be an absolute slobber knocker in that division. I do think the Red Sox have the pieces that they can make the upset, but it's going to be extremely, extremely tough to overtake the Blue Jays this year. That is the American League powerhouse by far. I don't even put the Yankees in contention realistically, and people are going to be angry about this. I don't care. The Yankees might finish fourth in this division. I think that's an actual legitimate thing, because that rotation is question mark after question mark after question mark behind Garrett Cole, and I wouldn't even call him a sure thing. So I think the Red Sox could be one of those teams, and a week ago was the Mets.
We've got to let you go in a minute here, so we'll end with this. I mentioned Robbie Ray, 80-1 Cy Young last year, ends up hitting. So who is this year's Robbie Ray? Be it, it could be Cy Young, could be MVP, either league. I don't care. Who's the guy that's not getting enough attention that you have fallen in love with?
Yeah, Dylan Cease, 14-1 to win the American League Cy Young this year. 32 starts last year, 12.2 K9, 3.41 FIP, keeps the ball in the park, allowing just over one home run per 9 inning. He's got to start working deeper into counts, though, from somebody who's never pitched a ball in his life. He needs to stop wasting all these pitches, because that's going to allow him to go deeper into these starts. If that happens, that's when you start to unlock the true potential of Dylan Cease. 14-1. It's an absolute steal if he can pitch to the ability he did last year and then up it up one more level. All
right, Bukes, we'll let you go on that. Appreciate you. Good to see you. Obviously, you're going to be back on the slate tomorrow with Matt LaMarca. Maybe I'll hang out as well. Will be a great time talking more baseball with you, my friend. Enjoy the night. It's opening day.
Who hosts this show on Friday?
I mean, sometimes me, sometimes you. Kind of depends me if I'm around, I guess. But if I'm not, it's you.
Well, let's just hope it's me.
There you go. See you later. We'll let Bukes go. Reed T. Fowler is going to take a break from watching the Masters and writing about the Masters, maybe betting about the Masters, playing lineups for the Masters. Yeah, there's no limit to the number of times that I can say Masters. Reed T. Fowler for the next, 3.5 days or whatever it is at this point is going to be all things Augusta National. How are you, man?
Good. I wish we could have Steven here to talk Masters, because the guy almost chose Shane Lowry to win the Honda Classic when he was trying to salvage his job when baseball was on strike. So I'm glad he's got baseball back up and running. He feels like the content for baseball is going to be fantastic this year in DraftKings. I clapped back on Twitter and said, what, it hasn't been great ever, in years past.
Sure.
But yeah, Masters is up and running. Tiger looks fantastic, and all is well in the world.
Well, obviously that is where we have to begin. We'll talk about the leaderboard and all that good stuff, but Tiger Woods, here in his return, hadn't played in over a year professionally in a tournament that matters. I know he'd obviously competed with his son, but that terrible car accident, nearly lost his leg, nearly lost his life for that matter. And right out here for the Masters, round one, we see the Tiger fist pump. He finishes 1 under, shoots a 71, could have very easily been a 2 under for the day after, one had lipped out. It was an inspiring performance, obviously going just beyond the depths of golf and everything, but especially when you put it in the context of Augusta National and the Masters in this tournament, which obviously he has won multiple times. It was really an incredible story here to start off the tourney.
Yeah. I mean, look where he's at. He's in the top 10 and there's 91 guys in the field right now. So that means he's better than 80 guys. Right. And most of those players, I would argue, if not all, no, I know all of them haven't gone through what he's gone through. Now, all of them aren't Tiger Woods. There's only one of those, but that's the testament to what he can do. And that's another notch for the guys who know how to play well at Augusta National are the ones that are usually going to stay at the top. Like, it's still Thursday. I said this before during the week that today might be adrenaline energy that he's, and especially if he plays well, that he's running on. But I want to see what happens on Friday, right? After all of that kind of subsides and it goes away. Now you got one day with competitive golf under your belt. Now I want to see how he does, especially tomorrow, right? Tomorrow afternoon is going to be tough. It's going to be windy. It's not going to be easy tomorrow. So, and it's not easy today. So it remains to be seen. But yeah, Tiger Woods is better. It's playing better than guys who won on tour already this season by far. His swing looks better. His course management is better. His putting looks better. And the guy hasn't played a competitive round for like 18 months.
So a couple things on all of that, watching the television broadcasts and just kind of, paying attention to Twitter and seeing what's going on here with the tourney. And again, we'll get to the leaderboard and all stuff, but Tiger is certainly the story and what everybody's constantly tweeting about. Jason Sobel, our buddy from the Action Network, joins us every week here on DraftKings. And, he had tweeted earlier today, I don't know, maybe midway through the first round for some of these guys, that this was, today, round one here on Thursday was the easiest, quote fingers, obviously, but the easiest that the course was likely going to play this weekend. You mentioned the wind, obviously, and in all likelihood over the next few days, it's going to get a lot tougher. So you factor that in, obviously, with Tiger. But then on top of that, I don't know because I haven't been through it. You haven't been through it. I'm curious what the short rehab looks like because it's probably going to be from finish to start, round one to round two, about 21 hours or so before Tiger Woods takes the course again. Other than ice, what is he doing? What does this look like from recovering from that first round to getting himself ready physically as much as mentally to getting back out there for round two tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be predominantly physical, right? It's mentally, he's already there. He's been mentally preparing for this ever since the doctors and the physios and his trainer said, if you hit these benchmarks, you can play Augusta. And he knew that way back when, before anybody, not even Charlie, his son, probably knew that. That's what he was done. That's what he was doing mentally to prepare. And obviously physically, right? You have to be able to get up for it, and his leg has to be there. And he said after his round today that he's going to have a ton of ice. But I remember when I had surgery on my ankle and I was held up for quite a while. What you have to get used to again is the normal day-to-day stuff. You don't feel it until your muscle and your leg atrophies. Then you feel that much more. And on top of that, there's scar tissue. There's scar tissue in your knee, in your hip, right? There's in your joints. It's everywhere. So, and on top of that, how much were you using your right side, or excuse me, how much is he using his opposite side, so his left side, to compensate for his right? Right? How much weight is he putting on his left side to compensate for his right? So there's all of these things that factor in. Fact of the matter is, it's not our job to try and figure out and parse that out. It's his. And I think for him, it's all going to be physical. right? To make sure that that thing is kept warm, that he gets a good night's rest. And then he gets up early and he starts the process all over again. And you know this, you and I both know this too. When it gets cold, your body at a certain point, like it hurts for no reason.
Sure.
Right. So in the morning,
comes with age too. Trust me.
Exactly. So, in the morning time when he has to get up and go through all this stuff, it's going to be a little bit colder. That might play a factor into it. But again, it's Tiger Woods.
This is kind of a dumb question, admittedly, but follow me with it. You talked about mentally and the fact that he's already there and was there even before he, got to Augusta. And I agree with you on that. But how much does it help him that he went out and shot as well as he did on day one? Where do you think he would be mentally going out and let's say he lands in the top 10 for the day when all's said and done and everybody's in the clubhouse and he's 1 under, obviously he's in the vicinity and he's certainly in striking distance, versus if he had gone out there and was, 3 over today or 4 over today. And man, people are doubting him. Was he ready? Should he have been out there? He starts doubting himself. Obviously an incredibly confident guy, so well accomplished, but it's only natural human nature. Some of those doubts creep into your mind when you don't succeed, when you don't perform well. How much of a leg up, no pun intended, was today's performance for him mentally going into tomorrow?
That was always a pun intended, cough. You and I both know that. That's the name of the game, baby.
There you go.
Look, I mean, obviously it's going to help, right? It's going to help when you see all of the work that you've done to see success early. But for him, and he'll be the first to tell you, it's not even close to being done, right? You can't win any golf tournament on Thursday, but you can definitely lose it. Luke List, he lost a tournament today, right? Like he's at plus, I think he's at 5 over par, right? I'm not saying that he was going to win, but he played himself out of it for the most part, barring a miracle from Luke List. So when you talk about Tiger Woods now at 1 under par, absolutely. Now you're getting that positive feedback in competition. That's the big thing. You can't replicate live sport. You can't replicate it like from a content perspective. You can't replicate it from an actual sport perspective of simulating live, right, competition golf. It is a completely different beast for these guys. They say it all the time. So it definitely helps out. Having said that, if Tiger shot 2 over, the guy would come out with the same fervor that he would if he shot at 1 under, that I got to make the cut. I got to make the cut and then we'll take it from there. And he's done that multiple times, is that he's come back on a Friday after shooting a poor first round. And he's done that quite a bit too. Not just in majors, but in regular tournaments where he hasn't had a great first round. And then come Friday, the guy's within striking distance and everybody sees his name, T15, right, top 10, and they start to get a little scared because it's Tiger Woods. And now when you see Tiger Woods top 10 at Augusta, then you're like, oh no, like he's coming, right? Like he's lurking, and he played smart. He didn't take himself out of it. There was a lot of times where he, like you mentioned, he lipped out here, lipped out there. Big thing is he didn't make a lot of mistakes. And that's what you have to do on this course for every golfer, is not make mistakes. And a lot of these guys who haven't played it in a while, even Rory's mentioned on Tuesday and Wednesday, and even like leading up to it, I have to be smart, play away from the pins. Come Thursday, the guy's going after the pin, right? Like that's the beauty of this course. And Alistair McKenzie and what they've done with it is it's such a good test of golf physically, but mentally it's even tougher.
We're here hanging out for another 25 minutes or so before, obviously, the DraftKings channels gets back to Madden simulations. Just past 2 years of those, by the way, so pretty incredible. If anybody has any questions, thoughts, comments, whatever it is, get them in. YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you're finding us. Talking Masters is, we're going to be doing a lot, obviously, over the next couple of days and, right on through Monday when we're recapping everything on the sweat. But at the moment, Cam Smith, he is in front, 4 under in the clubhouse, but he is tied with 2 other guys who certainly could overtake him by the time their rounds are over. You have Sungjae Im, who is also 4 under through 13. Dustin Johnson, who has been electric, 4 under through 12. Yeah. Both these guys have been really, really good. And then obviously you got a handful of guys that are just a stroke behind all of them. But let's start with that top trio right now. There are a lot of people that certainly expected the John Rahms of the world to, be at the top of the leaderboard at the end of round 1, or, former world's number 1 and all of that. But Smith, Im, and Johnson, what has stood out to you?
This is the exact finishing trio of 2020, like how it finished. DJ Wan, like it's flipped. but they're all tied. DJ won, Cam Smith and Sungjae Im came runner up. So you started to take a look at, we were talking about this. I don't know if I was on like the Slate or the Sweat. And I was saying, it might've been the Slate with Jeff and Emerson on Tuesday. I was saying, hey, look, if this is going to, the weather is going to replicate kind of what it did in the past, where you see colder, wetter, windier conditions. Look what happened in November, right? Where Cam Smith, Sungjae Im, and Dustin Johnson were the benefactors of that November edition of the Masters. And look what we're seeing right now. Cam Smith, if he didn't double bogey that last hole, we'd be saying this guy is playing another game. Like, he's not playing Augusta National. He's unbelievable. You take a look at that putter and what he did on the front nine, birding 4 to the 5 holes to end the front nine. Like, it was unbelievable. And whenever you have that good of a putter, right, that can mitigate a lot of the issues. Like Cam Smith, he double bogeyed. Daniel Berger was at 3 under. He double bogeyed the 18th hole. That's what this course can do, is it can make you feel comfortable. And at the very end, it can smack you up the face. And that's what we see from a guy like Cam Smith, that he was there, but kind of faltered a little bit. It's still a fantastic round. 4 under today is he's in a great spot. But again, you got the AM PM draw for these guys. Cam Smith, that's going to be a little bit difficult. So I would say DJ, Sungjae Im to an extent. Those guys have a little. Brooks is right up there. I believe he's at 2 or 3 under. They got the better side of the draw, being PMAM.
Yeah, he is 2 under, and he is through 10 right now. So obviously, right. We'll see. Long ways to go in his round. He's basically only halfway through. If the Smith, Im, and Johnson, you mentioned it, flipped from previous finishing at the Masters. But if you were to identify among those 3 the one that you're most confident in, if you were putting money on the table right now, Dustin's plus 350, you got Smith at plus 700, Scheffler, who is in the mix, he's a stroke back, he's a plus 400 as well. I guess a little bit of disrespect, Sungjae Im, he's tied for the lead, he's plus 1600, though he's way down the odds board compared to some of the guys toward the top here. Who does stand out among that top trio?
The top trio, Cameron Smith. Right, it's hard to say it, but I would go Cam Smith 1, Scotty Scheffler 2, and Dustin Johnson 3. And only the reason being is Scotty Scheffler, this is his third. I think it's his third Masters. And for Cam Smith, I think he's had more. I have to double check on that. But when you take a look at what Smith is doing with the putter, like, you don't need. So Cam Smith has played in 5 Masters tournaments, and he's got a top 5 and a runner up. And then last year, in April 2021, when Hideki won, he has a top 10 finish. So when you look at what he's doing currently right now, like, it is unbelievable, right? And Cam Smith, his driver is not great off the tee, is not great, and it's really not part of a strong part of his game. But boy, when you're confident inside 20 feet, Koff, and again, you don't need to be this all-star putter here, but if you are anywhere, you're going to save so many strokes, and not just for pros, for amateurs alike. If you work on your short game, and a 1-inch putt that you make it matters the same as a 350-yard drive, right? So if you're making putts, that's the easiest way to gain strokes on the field or against your playing partners, if you're a weekend warrior, and that's what he's doing. Scotty Scheffler is fantastic. I would just give the nod to Cam Smith, though. He's a little bit more experience here at Augusta National.
So we have, and again, a lot of guys are still out there on the course. We have right now roughly 30 guys that are even or better. And, talked about obviously some of these guys that are 4 under. I know it's early to start to think about projected cut line and all of that. Historically speaking, about where do you expect this to land?
Yeah, if it stays like this, probably single digits. I think it's gonna play even harder on the weekend, right? So, like, the winning scores, yeah, probably the year like 2017 when Sergio won at 9 under par. You might see it creep up to 12 under at some point. But again, look, the leaders right now are at 4 under. I would argue that 4 or 5 under is probably going to lead the clubhouse. So all you guys are first round leader bets, that's probably going to be I think 6 is at the absolute zenith of where it's going to be. But even then, that means the leader tomorrow has to come out and shoot a pretty decent score. This weekend is going to be tough. It's the teeth of this course is going to come out on the weekend. And when the wind picks up here, we don't see it on TV, how severe these slopes are in the fairway and on the greens. Like they are severe. So when you talk about that with wind and these tough greens, tough around the greens, and it's, you know, a lot drier than it is now, you're going to see a lot of bogeys and double bogeys. So I'd say probably around 9 under.
So who should we be worried about right now based on what you've seen so far?
Like worried if we don't have the winner?
Well, worried about them,
like not making the cut.
Yeah, not making it to the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Spieth right now is at 1 over. His putter looks shaky. Morikawa's at 1 over. Like he's still got a lot to go. Like I would argue Spieth is a little bit shaky. Finau is doing okay. He's at 1 under par. Louis had a really bad day at 4 over par, I believe. But remember here too, top 50 and ties make it.
Right.
Top 50 and ties make this, and there's only 91 guys in the field. So, right, like right now, 2 over gets you in the cut. And who's on Horschel, Burns, Leishman, Adam Scott, Max Homa. Those guys are all at 2 over par. So I'm not too worried yet. I mean, the guys who are outside, Siwoo Kim, Stuart Sink, Bryson shot 4 over par. I think he came back too early. It looks like there's something's not right with him, but him, Luke List, both at 4 over and 5 over par respectively. So yeah, but again, Bryson wasn't someone who wasn't highly rostered in the Millie Maker at all. So Stuart Sink, Siwoo Kim, I think those guys are rostered more. And so I'd be scared about what they're going to do because they got the PM draw tomorrow.
I'm just looking at it. Who jumps out at you? Like it's whether it was on the Sweat, the Slate, articles you've written, like it's a lot of and anybody, not just singling out you. It's a lot of the same guys, obviously, that we talk about, same top tier guys, same mid guys, same value guys. Who's really jumped out as like, man, I didn't see this coming. Like for me, and better, obviously, but I'm looking at it and it's like scrolling the leaderboard, the first name I see, and he was, doing better even to start the day than where he ultimately finished. But like Higgs, a guy who's sitting at, 1 under 71, tied for 11th at the moment, or, Higo obviously is another one, Champ, Glover, McIntyre, like guys that I feel like there just wasn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, this world better than I do, but I feel like there wasn't a lot of conversation about guys like this going into the tournament, at least on a higher level. Anyone that has shocked you in that way?
Not really. Look, Harry Higgs, and Cameron Champ too. Cameron Champ's had like 14 missed cuts coming into this. Yeah. Like so, but he's played right Augusta. Now. Yeah, he's played well here. Right. In his 2 starts, I think he has 2 top 25s at the Masters. So you could have played that and completely faded his current form, and you would be in the monies right now, if it was a showdown, because Cam Champ is someone who is playing well. Like I faded Cam Champ over Luke List and Stuart Sink, and look where that's gotten me. Right. Like Stuart Sink is 5 over, 4 over, and List is 5 over. And so like those are like, it's going to happen. And this is a big thing about pre-tournament too, that you need to focus on is like player guys. If you had an inkling on Harry Higgs, because it's just someone that you thought, okay, with his short game, he could play well here, then yeah. The thing is too, though, right, Koff, like Danny Willett's at 3 under. Like he showed a little bit in Florida, but other than that, like we didn't really see anything. Sungjae Im is a fantastic golfer. But his current form has not been great, right? But he comes here and he feels something, and now he shoots 4 under. So I'd probably say the only guy that I'm a little bit, kind of confounded, like, oh, that was kind of out of nowhere, is Cameron Champ. Even though like he's done well here, I thought, it's how can you replicate that every single time? It's still Thursday, but yeah, he's probably the one that I'm like, I didn't see that one coming.
You mentioned it for these guys in real life golf, going out there and participating in tournaments. You can't win a tournament on the first day, but you can certainly lose it. In the DFS sense of a 4-day sweat for golf, hopefully a 4-day sweat for everybody involved. Plenty of people reset at the weekend, but there's also the opportunity, you mentioned showdowns resetting come round 2 on Friday. So taking a little look at that, and what's the strategy in terms of building out a showdown lineup here for round 2 only?
Yeah, I mean, I want to get the guys who are playing in the morning. Just that doesn't mean you completely fade the PM stacks, but I want those guys who are playing in the morning. And you don't get any strokes gain stats at Augusta, right? So you can't see who the bad putters are, who are ball striking it well. But I mean, there's some guys. I mean, Shane Lowry. I would argue Lowry and Berger. Lowry was 1 under coming to 15, and he had a wedge in his hand, and he dumped one in the water, and then he ended up double bogeying that hole to end up. And then after that, 16, 17, 18, his last 3 holes, he played at even par. But he was hitting the ball fantastic off the tee. Irons were a little bit shaky, but he's someone that I'd probably want to put in a showdown because the ball striking was there. It's just he wasn't making any putts, and then he made one misstep, and that cost him. He was at T8 at that point, and now he finished at T35 from one shot. Right? You don't see those things very often happening all the time, especially for a guy who's won a major before. So that's what I'm looking at. Same with Daniel Berger. Daniel Berger was fantastic, 3 under coming into the 18th hole. And then he fans one into the pine straw to the right, and he ends up double bogeying the last hole to sit at 1 under. If not, we'd be talking about him being tied for 4th right now at 3 under. So that's what you got to look at, right? Look at the guys who are playing well in like one bad shot, one bad hole, like a double bogey and a par 5. Push them back to where maybe they're not being considered just because of their score. Because most people would just look at the score, right? They'll just look at the score and say, oh, this guy needs to get it going, so he's going to make a lot of birdies. Yeah, it's probably true. Like a JT. Like JT is going to need to hustle tomorrow to even make the cut. That might be the case, but yeah, I think that there's things to be said about Shane Lowry, Daniel Berger, and even a guy like Cam Smith who can just drain a lot of birdies with this putter.
Can you go deeper on that for me? Like I just sort of, it's sort of the psychology of sports, any sport, but obviously we're sitting here talking about golf. You and I, we can't relate to being professional athletes and being able to just go out there and do certain things at will, obviously. But, you talk about like a guy's going to need to go out and, JT's going to need to have a bunch of birdies tomorrow. He's going to need to be hustling. Like, how does a guy psychologically speaking and physically as well, because you need to actually do it. How do you go out and just like, I'm just going to golf better tomorrow? Like, how I know that's not exactly what you're saying, but like, how does that work?
Well, you just release all the tension and the pressure and saying, look, I got nothing to lose. Right. So I don't have to play safe, because if I play safe, I'm going home. So I have to be more aggressive, meaning he's probably going to take more aggressive lines. And if that works out for him, then he's going to have easier birdie putts. Right. So that's the mentality of, if I'm 4 over par and the leaders are probably going to sit at 6 under and the cut's probably going to be around 3, maybe 2 over par, then that means, JT to feel safe has to get it back to even. If that's the case, right, he's got to go 4 under, which is a far cry, which is 8 strokes better than what he did today. So when you take a look at that and you say to yourself, okay, how am I going to do that? Well, there's 4 par 5s. I'm going to have to be aggressive on those 4 par 5s and birdie those 4. And then let's get another couple of birdies on these easier par 4s, right, that aren't easy. And then we're going to obviously add in some bogeys. But for him, he's looking probably and saying, I need to birdie those par 5s. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, because they're some of the easiest on tour to birdie. So you're going to need to birdie those par 5s. That's probably what he's looking at. But for these guys, they've been doing it their entire lives, right? That you're probably going to step on a little bit more. You're going to be a little bit more aggressive with your lines. And because if JT shoots 4 over, he's probably missing the cut. So if he shoots even par, he's missing the cut, right? If he shoots 1 over, he's missing the cut. Even if he shoots 1 under, he's probably right on it, maybe missing the cut. So he's got to come out and be aggressive.
So basically you got to gamble more.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing with anything, right? Like if you feel like your back's against the wall in anything, you're going to take more risks to get yourself out of that situation, because that's not a situation you want to be in, right? Whether it be in your personal life, work, home, anything, you're going to do the things that are going to fix your situation that you might not do if everything was fine. If everything is copacetic, the human nature is not to try and improve yourself. Now, the best people like Tiger, like the best golfers in the world, when they reach number 1, they strive to be even better than they actually were to get there. Because the adage is, right, Koff, is that the things that got you to that point might not be the things that gets you to the next point. So that's what these guys do. And that's what the really good golfers, really good athletes in any sport do, is they take themselves to the next level, even when they reach the top. So if JT wants to be considered that, because he's been garbage in majors. I heard this stat yesterday, Koff, which blew my mind. Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods have had a major win before or since like more recently than JT, Rory, and Jordan Spieth.
It's incredible, especially
right?
with the track that Spieth was on there for a while.
It's incredible. Spieth was 2017, I believe, the Open Championship, and Rory hasn't won a major since 2014, which is crazy. And JT hasn't won one since the PGA in 2017. So, like, if these guys want to be considered some of the best, like, they got to show up, especially in these moments. And JT right now, his back's against the wall.
Going back to Tiger, because ultimately Tiger is that's what drives ratings, man. That's what it's all about.
Right.
Looking, specifically at this round 2 showdown, what do you expect? And this is, I'm setting you up to totally guess here. I don't expect you to know, but if you had to speculate what kind of ownership in the showdown we're looking at for Tiger Woods, how much does recency bias, obviously, from round 1 into round 2 come into play? I think people were a little timid about him going into the tourney, a 4-day. Will he make the cut? Is he actually going to be a good play? What's he going to look like first competitive, action and however long? And now to see what he did on day 1, is he going to be just exceedingly popular in round 2?
People might talk themselves out of it, right? They might do the double swap thinking that that's the case. And look, I don't think it's a bad play, right? What is he at right now? It's got to be 7,400. Yeah, 7,400. I was going to say it's probably high sevens at the most, but there's still an unknown, right? Koff, about Tiger is like I mentioned, leg fatigue, and that's a big thing. As Jordan Spieth just made a quadruple bogey, I believe. Hopefully I didn't see a highlight. Like maybe I saw a highlight, but I think he made a quad.
Oh god.
But that's like, I would argue that sorry, my app's going off.
No,
I would argue that
I'm
Tiger Woods right now,
leaderboard now.
Yeah, that's 7,900. It's not a bad play. Because look, I mean, what are we expecting tomorrow? Tomorrow is going to be in the afternoon. It's going to be windy.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the morning wave is going to be better. Tiger's going to go out in the afternoon wave. Maybe people fade Tiger because of that, or they don't know what his leg's going to do. And I don't think it's a bad play, because Tiger in the wind, when everything notches up, there's a few guys like him, Morikawa, a lot of the Euro guys, when that difficulty ramps up, they play better. So like, I don't mind it. I don't mind him at $7,900. I'd probably want to go Russell Henley, Tony Finau, some of those guys, because they make a ton of birdies, right? Like, that's what you need. Tiger might play well, but for DraftKings scoring, it might not be great. I also want guys who can make birdies. So Gooch, Finau, Henley, that's a pretty good range right there.
I know this is something that's semi unpredictable. I say semi because I think some of this going into round 1 at least could have been foreseen, and that was Paul Casey and the back injury withdrawing. Obviously, it really stunk for the people that rostered him, because it happened ultimately after lineups locked for the tournament. But is there anybody else that, I don't know how common this is, if not for obviously injury, guys don't typically withdraw just because of poor performances. But, is there anyone that you sort of are maybe didn't look right out there today that you're in fear of, like they may not make it through this tournament?
Spieth is probably that one guy. I think he will. I think he'll find something just because it's Spieth. I think it was a highlight that we saw, Koff. So hopefully,
yeah, because what I'm seeing is he's 2 over through 11.
Okay, hopefully it's a highlight. But yeah, I mean, look, Spieth is like that a little bit, and that's just because he's been a little wonky with his swing. Bryson, right? Like Bryson at 4 over. Like he's in a bad spot right now. He's not making his putts. They're not even coming close. Even if he's at, the drive's fine, he can hit 350, but if you can't score, it doesn't matter. You can't putt, doesn't matter. Like I just said, 350-yard drive doesn't matter if you can't putt. So that's the guy that, again, I'm worried about just from a general standpoint, because he wasn't rostered heavily. But I do feel bad. I feel bad for the Paul Casey guys who roster Paul Casey. And this is again something that everyone should know and learn. Do not listen to these guys. Like, don't take anything from the press conferences at all. Because they all say the same thing, and if they don't, you're like, oh, that's weird.
Bunch
Like
of
they all
liars.
say that their game's really sharp. It's in a great place. They're hitting it well. They all say that you got to hit it in the fairway, make your putts. They all say the same thing. Paul Casey said he feels really good. Like no injury, feels really good. And that was like on Monday. And now all of a sudden, right before lock, he says, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right. So that I do feel bad just because it kind of comes out of left field. That's the name of the game. It's part of it. But I'd say Bryson is probably the only other guy. And then obviously Tiger with the leg. But Bryson's probably the one guy I'm like, okay, is he all right? Because, you don't want to push it to where he's out for the entire season.
You've mentioned the wind, tomorrow and concerns and what that could do to the scores. Our guy CEH in the chat says, I'm feeling a little bit better about all my golfers at 1 over right now. Should he be?
Yeah, look, 1 over, you're still in it. Like, especially with good old Smith, the mullet man, with him double bogeying the last hole, feels a lot better. Like I was fuming when Berger doubled because he was at 3 under, but he didn't really lose that much because Cam Smith and the leaders right now are at 4 under. So yeah, you're 5 shots, within 5 shots of the lead right now in a major after round 1. Yeah. If we took the scores away, right, of 4 under and 1 over, if we just said to everybody who has outright bets, top 10, top 5s, if we said your golfer was within 5 strokes of the lead, you'd be like, I'll take it. Especially here. So yeah, everyone's still in it. Rory's at 1 under par. This is just shaping up to be a nice little Augusta National on the weekend here, Koff.
Without obviously being overly specific, what's your general approach to majors in general, whether it's the Masters or obviously other major tournaments for golf, in terms of just like how you like to play? Are you out there making bets, looking obviously at what odds are available on places like the DraftKings Sportsbook? Are you more someone that likes to delve into DFS and make a whole bunch of lineups? What do you like to do for these tournaments?
Yeah, well, obviously on the betting side, it's a lot, it's probably more heavy than just regular tournaments. I'll try to increase my bankroll to be heavy in the majors, just because I know the pricing, and this applies to DFS as well, is that the pricing is soft, right? The pricing is soft for both the outright market, top 5, top 10, top 20s matchups, because it's a major. Every single golfer is there, worth their weight in gold is there. Mm-hmm. So you want to save, because for me personally, I can find the edge a little bit easier. And especially here, Koff, there's 91 golfers here. So when there's 91 golfers, you cut that from 156 in a regular golf tournament, and you look at just the trends here, because it's been at the same course every year for the last 1,000 years, right? There's the trends, and the historic data is that it has more weight to it because it's been at the same course. So when you get the limited field, the soft pricing, the correlation in terms of the data, and look, you can always have exceptions to the rule, but the correlation with the data, I'm more heavy on the DFS side. Like I'll make 20 lineups instead of 10 or 5, or I'll bet, I'll make much more, bets in top 5, top 10, top 20s, first round leaders, everything, because the pricing is soft. And I feel like I have an edge in the Masters or in majors, especially this week, over most of the people like on the DFS side, if I were able to play in the public, even in our DK leagues. Yeah. Right. Like I have an edge over most people.
Sure.
Because I look again.
Well, you follow the sport.
I follow the sport, but it doesn't always work out. Right. Like I follow the sport, and I said Luke Liss is someone that I really like, and he's, almost DFL. Yeah. So like sometimes it doesn't work in my favor. But definitely like I'm approaching it a lot heavier because of those things, especially this week, but in majors in general, I'll approach it a lot different because of the soft pricing.
So I made 10 different lineups for the Masters, which is not something I typically do. I went a little crazy with a major, obviously, and the Masters being the major that it is. I made 10 different lineups, and I want to say, without sitting here counting them, I had maybe like 22, 23 different guys across my 10 lineups, which, to be honest with you, doesn't feel like I had enough differentiation. And I didn't feel like it at the time either. Even when I, locked them in before I went to bed last night, I was like, this doesn't, I don't like this, but it's hard. It not only, I'm saying everything that you already know and the people out there watching already know, but you have so many options. You have so many guys that you like, but it's not just that. It's not just having exposure to guys. You need to have the right combos. And that is what just totally makes the thing unpredictable.
Exactly. And that's what makes it fun, is that, look, and this is personal preference, right? If you make 10 lineups, 25, if you make a single bullet, then it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But your player, like your core, right? Like your core player pool, at a major like this at 91, for me personally, I would say in my core players, I probably have 12 guys, right, who I'm going to play across all of my lineups.
Right.
And then from there, I'll cascade it to other players, right, and look at it that way. Just because if I win, I want to win all of it.
Right.
If I lose, Ricky Bobby, I'll just be last.
Exactly.
So my player core, like my core group of players will be, and that's true with anything for people who are entering the MME and the Millie Makers. You want a tight core, because if you do, and those guys do well, you're going to ascend. And if you're, fading, so like if you faded JT, you're feeling really good right now because JT is chalk. That's what you got to do. And no one was talking about DJ.
Yeah,
DJ's at 4 under.
Yeah, I've got. I was just looking. I got it written down here, Reed.
Oh.
I've got. I've got JT in one lineup. I've got DJ in one lineup. But my core, and I didn't have them in every lineup, but the guys that I had the most exposure to, and we'll see how it goes. Some not looking so great right now, but Rom, Hatton, Connors, Woodland were the guys that I had probably the most across my 10 lineups.
Yeah, not bad. Look, Connors is at 2 under.
Yeah.
Rom's number 2 in the world.
Right. Yeah, right?
He's all right. Woodland has been playing well, 2 top 5 finishes. It's like last 5 events or whatever it is. So look, and Hatton, what you're getting with Hatton.
Right.
So it's Thursday.
Right.
Those guys,
so much time left.
Yeah. And I don't think those guys played themselves out of the tournament at all today. Or if they're still on the course. Yeah. Rom's at 1 over. That's definitely not. Hatton's at 1 over. Yeah. Like Woodland, I don't know where he's at, but
he does 2 or 3 over last I looked at him. See.
Yeah,
he's 3 over with a hole left.
Yeah, look, that's the one guy I'd probably be like, just because he hasn't played here, he hasn't played well here. But again, right? It's just a matter of, like you just said, what's the combination? What's the right combination of these guys? And if you get it, I mean, you hit the nuts, you can win $1 million.
Not in our contests.
No.
No. Some we don't really have time to do it, but some have asked about NBA, just to float some news and nuggets for you as we're down to the final couple games of the regular season. There's no Jason Tatum tonight. LeBron James and Anthony Davis have been ruled out tonight. Giannis Antetokounmpo is expected to play. Brandon Ingram is doubtful. You got a bunch of guys. OG Anunoby has been downgraded to doubtful as well. Some key guys questionable, probably will end up playing. We'll wind up seeing, and obviously we're still about an hour away from lock, so we'll find out what news is still to come in the next little bit. But certainly the Lakers are fully embracing not even making the play-in tournament and just torturing Russell Westbrook by putting him out there on the floor with nobody else. But we want to thank, obviously. What's that?
I think he's out.
Is he out now too?
I think,
Westbrook?
yeah. I wrote a little blurb for DK Live. I think he's out.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, you may be right. Let's see. Let me look it up real quick, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
Look at some of the projected players.
I think Shams tweeted out.
Yeah, he may have. I saw LeBron and AD are definitely out.
I'm almost certain Westbrook is out.
Yeah, I don't see him either. So you must be right. Yeah, the top projected plays tonight in terms of points: Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Towns, Ball, Jaylen Brown without Tatum, James Harden, Pascal Siakam. They're not all in great spots. Probably the guys that are in the best spots are Towns, Ball, Brown, CJ McCollum. You could put in that list. Obviously, Joker and Embiid are always, good plays. But we'll see. It's interesting. It's definitely an interesting time around the NBA, judging seeding versus rest, ramping up for playoffs, all that good stuff. But all right, we're going to go. Thanks to producer Eamon, to undercover boss Tom T. Pike, our technical director. Thanks to Steve Buchanan joining us earlier, celebrating the start of baseball season. It's opening day, folks, even though my beloved Red Sox don't start until tomorrow in New York. Reed T. Fowler on the Masters. He will be glued to it for the days to come. Reed, always a pleasure, my man.
All right, bud. Play Trey Jones tonight.
Yeah, always a good play. Love them. Spurs, baby. And every Thunder player available whenever they're in action. As long as they're starting. If they're on the bench, don't play them. Starters only. We'll see you later.